With Pretty Little Liars and Vampire Diaries coming to an end, you're probably looking for a new show filled with mystery. Riley, stop! Okay, you can't be in this video with me, okay? I know you want to be a star, but you gotta get down. Take 2. You're probably looking for a new show filled with mystery, love triangles, and abs, and you can look no further than the CW's newest offering, Riverdale, which premiered tonight, or Thursday, the 26th, whenever you happen to be watching this. What's up everyone, Lisa here, and since I watch a lot of TV, I decided why not try out some recap videos in what I'm now calling What Happened? I won't be doing every show I watch because I watch too much TV, but a few of my favorites I figured I would try it out, starting with this brand new show, Riverdale. The show is basically an updated version of the Archie comics, you know, those brightly colored, happy little comic books you see next to the People magazine in the checkout lanes that no one buys. Now this show is definitely not those cheesy Archie comics you may remember as a kid, or actually more like your parents or your grandparents remember as a kid, because I honestly don't know if teens these days even know what Archie is. But thanks to this show, they will have a whole new image of Archie. Alright guys, sorry my dog is really annoying and whatnot. Let me film this without her. So this first episode obviously helps set up the murder, which is the driving force for the show throughout season 1. We learn that small-town athlete Jason Blossom was murdered while on a boating trip with his twin sister, Cheryl, aka their town bitch. Now, what's creepy about them is they decide that they are going to wear matching white outfits, basically kind of like they're in a cult or there's something more going on there, and they decide to go out for a boat ride in the middle of the night. Yeah, that's just asking for trouble. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Cole Sprouse, who makes his acting return as Jughead, is not really seen a lot in the first episode, which makes me a little bit sad, but it's fine because he actually narrates the whole episode, which is fitting since he's working on a novel about the Summer and Jason's murder. So along the way, we learn that Jason is pretty much hated by a character named Alice Cooper, who is none other than the mom of All-American girl, Betty. There's a scene where we see Jason's family on the river looking pretty upset, and we hear Alice Cooper.
He is dead, Hal. I hope in those last moments he suffered. May Jason Blossom burn in hell.
Like, that is pretty intense, and later on we learn why she feels that way, but I think we may have our first suspect? Okay, Riley, this is really distracting. You gotta go, bud, I'm sorry. So now I'm basically gonna try to break this recap down by characters, starting with our main guy, Archie, played by KJ Apa, who is pretty easy on the eyes, obviously. Summer was very good to Archie, who hit puberty and basically gained a six-pack and the attention of everybody in town. Cue the shirtless introduction scene, which I am not mad about.
Game changer. Archie got hot. He's got abs now. 6 more reasons for you to take that ginger bull by the horns tonight.
He's basically good at everything except picking up on signals that his best friend and neighbor Betty is in love with him, but more on that in a second. Thanks to Archie's newfound hotness, we learn that he's had quite the scandalous summer and isn't the good boy everybody thinks he is. It's basically kind of like an updated or PG-13 2017 High School Musical. He is your modern day Troy Bolton, but just replace basketball with football. During his summer adventures, he's picked up songwriting and learned that his passion is music, not working for his dad's company or playing football, for which he's been offered a varsity spot, which is obviously very rare in Riverdale for a sophomore. And to make that offer even more awkward, the coach offers him Jason Blossom's old number 9. Who thought it was a good idea to give a dead kid's number to a football player? Don't you know you usually retire those numbers? Yeah, we have a feeling that's going to be a little strange, because also both have red hair. Anyway, back to Archie's summer. We learn that he's had a stereotypical teen show summer romance. A foreboding one. With a teacher. Enter Mrs. Grundy, a music teacher, who has obviously helped fuel his passion for songwriting and helped that flower open up. Let's just say that definitely makes things awkward when the first day of school arrives and they awkwardly make eye contact in the middle of a school assembly.
Collectively, and celebrate my brother's too short life on this mortal coil. Thank you all.
Archie ends up spending basically the whole episode trying to convince Mrs. Grundy to give him music lessons, which she doesn't want to do for obvious reasons because she has feelings for this kid. But Archie really doesn't seem to care about feelings. He just cares about his music and really wants to get this independent study with her so he can better educate himself on songwriting. She eventually agrees, but during their discussions, we learn a little bit more about the danger they might have been in, or maybe the things that they know that they haven't told people, which is that during one of their early morning trysts at like 6 a.m. in the woods, they hear a gunshot. So that obviously will tie into Jason's murder somehow. In the end, Archie ends up getting his independent study with Mrs. Grundy, and he ends up making the varsity football team, and has a heart-to-heart with his dad about his passion of pursuing music over sports. High School Musical. Moving on to the girl next door, Betty. Literally, she's the girl who lives next door to Archie, whose window conveniently looks into his, right? Yeah. It's basically like that Taylor Swift You Belong With Me music video.
Oh my God.
What?
Game changer.
It's cool, I'm sorry, but there's no can do. My youth ain't tangled up in bad decisions. If you could see that I'm the one who understands you, been here all along, so why can't you see?
We basically learn that her mother is Alice Cooper, a very controlling, all thanks to her older sister Polly, who had a bad relationship with her mom, a falling out after we learn that she had a bad relationship with the murder victim Jason Blossom, and her mother still holds this ridiculous grudge. Polly ended up having this nervous breakdown, ends up in a group home, and so now Alice keeps a tight rein on Betty, and Betty's basically in love with Archie, but can't seem to get her feelings out to him. And when she finally decides she's going to confess her love, make her move while at Pop's Diner, with some encouragement from her gay BFF Kevin, who is hilarious by the way, a new girl, Veronica, slow motion walks her way into the diner and immediately cock blocks that and grabs Archie's attention. We learn that Veronica and her mom Hermione, had no idea there was another literary Hermione, but there is, have returned to Riverdale because they're basically broke. Yet somehow they seem to be living in a very nice like penthouse with a bellhop, because bellhop automatically means you're rich, right? They've moved back to town because they are now broke, because Mr. Lodge has been found guilty, or he's being tried for fraud and embezzlement, which is not really helping Hermione find a new job in the town. Now Veronica and Betty obviously have kind of a rivalry in the comics. I feel like we're definitely going to see that later on, but in this first episode, Veronica and Betty quickly bond, of course, but I really do like their friendship in this first episode. Veronica stands up for Betty when Cheryl's basically being a bitch again during cheerleading tryouts. Veronica says that they are a packaged deal, and if she wants her to be on the cheerleading squad, she has to accept Betty as well. Also, why is their cheerleading squad called the River Vixens? Like, what parents or teachers would have approved that and thought it was appropriate? So both girls end up making this cheerleading squad, and Veronica also does her best to kind of help initiate Betty into asking Archie to this big school dance, but Betty makes things a little bit awkward by...
I was wondering if you wanted to come with both of us.
Huh?
What?
And he ends up turning that down, which was a little bit crazy for a high school boy with a lot of hormones. But Veronica ends up talking her way and convincing him into going to the dance with both of them. And they all go to the dance together and end up at an after party at Cheryl Blossom's house, which they're still playing this game called 7 Minutes in Heaven that I didn't know was a thing still. But resident mean girl Cheryl basically rigs the game so that Archie and Veronica end up in the closet together, which starts out as them just having a conversation, asking each other questions, and we learn that Archie has no real feelings for Betty in the romantic way. He ends up hardcore friend-zoning Betty, and she doesn't even know it yet. But after this friend-zoning talk, of course, they end up making out, which we knew was going to happen at some point. But when they leave the closet, they find out Betty's ran away, and so they spend the night trying to find her to make things up to her. The episode ends with Kevin and football player Moose going into the woods for a hookup and discovering something kind of creepy. They come across Jason's dead body in the water, and he has a gunshot in his head. Has to be connected to that gunshot that Mrs. Grundy and Archie heard, right? We also learned that Jughead and Archie had a falling out during a late night talk that they have at Pop's Diner, which is obviously the resident hangout. It's going to be a little bit interesting to see how that relationship unfolds, because it looks like maybe Archie was in the wrong and Jughead just wanted him to come talk to him about it, but he never did because Jughead goes, talking would have gone a long way with me. Fingers crossed we get to see more Jughead and this relationship develop in the next episode. Some other things we've learned in this first episode of Riverdale is that Archie's dad, Fred, played by Luke Perry of 90210 fame, has some history with Hermione Lodge. Guess we'll see where that goes. My feeling is that there's some history between Hermione, Alice, and Fred. Basically an older version of Archie, Betty, and Veronica. We also get a brief introduction to a character named Josie McCoy, who you might know better as Josie from Josie and the Pussycats. Yes, that's right, Josie and the Pussycats is in the same universe as the Archie comics, and there are cat ears present, and even the girl's hair is kind of shaped like the ears. One thing I don't really like about this show is that they really love to make puns or references to current things to let you know that this isn't those old Archie comics, that this is 2017. At times, it gets a little forced. There's a lot of random things like calling Archie a Justin Gingerlake or a redheaded Ansel Elgort or Teen Outlander. At one point, they say you're gonna be the Queen Bee of the school or whatever instead of Queen Bee. Cheryl just casually tells Veronica to follow her on Twitter and drops her Twitter handle instead of just giving Veronica her number.
Follow me on Twitter and I'll do the same. My handle's at Cheryl Bombshell.
This episode wasn't the best first episode I've ever seen. It wasn't my favorite, but I think there was enough in there that I kind of like these characters. I like these newcomers, these actors, and I am always intrigued by a good old mystery, like a whodunit. Like I'm obsessed with Law & Order SVU. I'm gonna keep watching, and hopefully the dialogue will get a little less cheesy and forced, but it's the CW, so who honestly knows, right? So that's my recap of episode 1 of Riverdale. Did you end up tuning into this brand new show? What did you think of the show? And do you have any inklings of who you think maybe done it? And I hope that we actually get answers in this first season. It's not dragged on for like 50 seasons like Pretty Little Liars. Let me know in the comments below if y'all like this. I'll try to kind of keep doing it. We'll see how this goes. What other shows would you like to see me recap? I'm probably going to do this one, maybe Pretty Little Liars when it comes back. Maybe try some Shadowhunters out, since that's kind of halfway through the season already. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, you can follow me on social media. Links are below. And you can also check out some of the recent interviews I did with the cast of Shadowhunters right over here in the boxes that appear somewhere on this screen. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Lisa, and I'll see you later right here on the What Happened?